everybody? Welcome back to Best Books Ever. I'm Tyler, and today we are starting a new book as well as a new series, Kingkiller Chronicle series, Book 1, Name of the Wind, by Patrick Rothfuss. Chapters 1 through 23, first quarter. Longer book, much longer if you were here from the last series. Much longer. I'm trying to think. I think there's a total of like 700 pages or something. And now I'm trying to think back to like the Percy Jackson stuff of like how long is that compared to this? It's gotta be at least double, right? But anyway, Name of the Wind. That's what we're doing. Very excited to get into it. Another disclaimer, though, I think I mentioned this at the end of the last episode as we were getting into this, but if you've never read this before and you don't know anything about it, I will say that this series is unfinished. No conclusion, unfortunately. This is one of the more famous examples of a author not finishing their series. Fingers crossed for them actually being able to do it. But I still think that these books are that good, that well written, and that like captivating with the characters and all that stuff that I do think it's still worth checking out, even though there's no ending. I still think it's worth your time to read these two books, even though the third book in the trilogy doesn't exist quite yet. Maybe it does exist and it's just not out, Maybe they just, Pat just won't publish it. We don't know. But the book itself, let's get into it. So as always, we'll start with the end. This one's a little different, right? I feel like this series is not really split up into parts. There are interludes, but there's way too many of them for us to actually chop the book up into 4 parts, but using the interludes. So it ends in a place that is very interesting, but I don't know how impactful it is, because the very last chapter ends with what was the name? Trappist telling the story of Encanus and Telu, telling the story of them. Again, I don't really know the importance of the story. Because to me, maybe it has some deeper meaning later on, but like to me, it just sounds like a very typical, like good guy versus bad guy story, where the good guy wins, and then bad guy's like, oh no, oh no, we're last ditch effort, and the good guy like sacrifices himself to take out the bad guy as well. There was the earlier part of the story with the kind of like blessing the one lady who never prayed for herself. She was always praying for other people. So very, very selfless. And then obviously with Telu being reborn through her, which was strange. And then him punishing and having the villagers repent all of their sins, and a few of them not doing it and him hurting them, and then sniffing out the demons and all that. So stuff there as well. I think overall though, I'm not really sure how this story, why it really matters to Kvothe specifically. It is the very end of our section, so maybe we will see it come back around. But I felt like it was important enough to mention, because to me, I don't think that he would tell this story for no reason. He would tell the story within the story within the story, for no reason at all. But we'll see. Hopefully it does come back around. I have a couple guesses, but won't get into it because that would be me trying to remember some future spoiler stuff, and obviously not going to spoil anything. So, but yeah, there's that fun little story. What else do we have? this is interesting, right? Because this is the start of a book, start of a series. So it's like there's a lot of stuff they cover, just like introducing the characters in the world, and alongside the actual real story based stuff that we're following along with. So um, I guess we'll do something we don't normally do. Let's kind of go towards the beginning a little bit, because we always have Kvothe, Bast, we got the Chronicler, all these fun characters. One thing I did want to point out, and I think they're doing it on purpose, is that they are really, really, really leaning into the sadness and the despair of the Kvothe or Kote character. Um, Even the little prologue with the three silences, one of them mentioned someone who's waiting to die, and then we see the way he acts each and every day. How Kote. I guess the present day character I'll refer to as Kote, where uh, the story character, the kid, I'll refer to as Kvothe. So Kote, he he's just very very mechanical, very autopilot. And it makes complete sense, right? Because in the story, Kvothe, and we'll obviously delve way deeper into this, but just to mention it real quick for my point, when some tragic things happen to Kvothe, that same thing kind of happens to him, where he just kind of goes on autopilot. He even mentions it, where he's like, I'm just going through the motions. Like, I don't see things for what they are. I see things as they are directly correlated to helping me in my survival, right? So he mentioned when he saw the Waystone, he didn't see it as the Waystone, the thing that they would always stop to, the thing that they would have a holiday for. All its legends, it's possibly good luck. He said, I don't see it like that right now. All I see it as something that can block the wind and maybe give me a good night's sleep, right? He didn't notice how possibly beautiful the view was of the forest and the flowers and the lake and all that, because all he saw it as was water and a place to sleep, shelter, that sort of thing. So I think that carries over to Kote and how he's sort of acting, where he very mindlessly does all these tasks and keeps himself busy to then not have to remember everything. And like Kote has it way worse, right? We don't know exactly how old Kote is. The chronicler keeps, he does this more than once, where he takes note of how old Kote looks, and he's like, he can't be older than like 25, can't be. But then you look into his eyes and his expression, and it's like, oh no, he's been alive a lot longer. Don't know how that's possible. Again, magic we've been introduced to is very present in this world, so maybe there's something like that. Maybe he is only 25, and somehow, from the turning point in his life when he was 12 to now, he's done a whole lot. I would doubt that. I feel like just the reverence of his name and like Chronicle coming here, I feel like there's way more that he's done in his life. And I feel like there is some sort of maybe magic or something that's keeping him alive. I don't know. Or like slowing his life. I don't know. Again, that's not a spoiler. That's me. I don't remember. Actually, I don't even know. Is that even revealed? I don't even know. Don't even remember. But yeah, so my back to my point, it is that it seems like that's what's happening, is that he's very particular about all of his actions, with him cleaning the bottles, scrubbing the floors, going out getting the wood, all this stuff, right? Where it doesn't really seem like he's living, he's just alive, which is two very different things. And Bast even mentions it to Chronicler when right towards the end of this, towards their last interlude here, where he talks to Chronicler and he's like, the mood has been bad here. It's been really bad. So it's nice to see him like up and he has energy and he's excited about something, like telling the story. And then we even hit the end where I think it's just the period or the exclamation point on what Bass said, is we cut to Kote when he's getting the wood, and he completely breaks down, which is something that I don't feel like ever happens. Ko always seems to have this very, very stone faced, very like, I'm strong, I'm fine, I'm firm, like don't you don't have to worry about me or anything. Like I am the rock. Um, so yeah, so a lot of stuff here again, really leaning into the whole. It seems like he wants to die. It seems like there's so much tragedy that's happened in his life. Most likely a lot of it due to his own hand. But yeah, so we'll see what happens again. It's very interesting that there are still mysteries on the present day, where it seems like the story or the past is really what like is really like the main part of all of this. But then then we jump back to the present day, and it's like, oh, there's still a lot of mysteries here, which we'll kind of round up probably at the end of like all these things, right? Because again, I think that's one of the best things about this book, about this series, is that it's not finished, and so I think that's given, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, since the last book came out. All that time for like fan theories and for people to read these books front to back dozens, hundreds of times, so we'll kind of touch on that at the end though. What else? Kind of just going through a little bit more towards the beginning, right? We have the whole magic thing, right? I already mentioned magic. They throw a lot of stuff at you at the very beginning, and I kind of like the way they did that. They did a decent job of explaining it, and so I just want to touch on some of that. Magic, even Kvothe says it, where he's like, it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. But there are some very interesting things here that I've never really seen before. Patrick definitely takes a very different approach to magic, and I don't know, just like how it works and like what its practical uses are. A lot of it, the majority of it, it feels like is internal. Even though we do have the name of the wind, which is funny. This book is called The Name of the Wind. The name of the wind, like that phrase, I feel like it's said like 5 times in just the first quarter of this book. One of the chapters is called The Name of the Wind, and there's multiple times where someone says the name of the wind. So I thought that was funny. It's that moment in like any movie when they say the name of the movie in the movie, and you're like, oh. But anyway, some of the magic things that I found fascinating. One was believing. Believing is a huge part, a huge pillar to the magic, where, the whole thing where he was like, do you believe that this stone will fall? And he's like, oh yeah, I mean, most likely, sure. And it's like, you have to get down to it. Yeah, the stone will fall. It does. It's like, okay, now I want you to believe the stone won't fall, which is crazy because it's like, well, I mean, I know gravity is a thing. You just showed me that if you drop the stone, it's going to fall. So the fact, like, how sincere it is almost scary. Because it's not just a joke. It's not just a game. It's not like, oh, I want you to believe the stone will fall. Like, no, you literally have to, like, you can't just say, okay, fine, I don't think the stone will fall. Like, no, you actually have to go inside of your own mind and rewire your mind into truly 100% believing the stone is not going to fall, given everything you know about, science and nature and how many times you've seen something fall when it's dropped. You now have to somehow rewire your brain into fully believing that this will not fall, even though 2 seconds ago I just gave you pretty strong visual evidence that it's going to happen. He even says it like, it took me 30 minutes to do that, and then it fell, and in his whole mind, he had a massive headache after that, because he just tricked his brain into believing something that is unbelievable, and then he's given evidence that he was wrong. That's just, I don't know, it's crazy. because then that all links to like the whole thing called alar, which again is very mental. A lot of this is very internal, which I find fascinating. He talks about things like the heart of stone, or the what's that one, or the little like mental exercise, seek the stone. So like the heart of stone is when you're able to shove away all emotions and just think about things logically. Again, a very, I mean, not a very, it's totally mental, right? And then you have things like, these exercises, seek the stone, where you have to like break your mind in half and have have one half of your mind hide a, imaginary stone in the mind, and then the other half has to find it. And Kvothe was talking about times that he did that, and it's like one of the times he searched forever, and then finally the other half was like, I never actually hit a stone. And then there's another time where the one half was like jeering at the other half, and it's like, and then he said, he was like, it's no wonder why a lot of these arcanists come off as very very crazy or eccentric, because it's like the things they have to do to their own minds is crazy. And then later on he talks about how he's able to do two things at once, and it's not just multitasking. He's fully in the act of some task or whatever, two different tasks, both two different sides of his brain, and he's able to split it into three. I don't think he splits it into four, but it's like the foundation for a lot of this stuff is very hard to perceive, because some of it sounds like, okay, I can kind of see how that would work in real life as the reader, right? But then other times, again, the whole like seek the stone thing, it's like, I don't even know, how would you do that? Is that even possible in real life? But yeah, again, I like this approach where Patrick showed us the name of the wind, right? He showed us Kvothe, um, what's the word? Eavesdropping on this strange man. We showed the whole sympathy lamp thing, which is like, okay, we've kind of seen that before. Very rare, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. Again, we are Edma Ruh. We are very attuned with uh, showmanship, right? So that's okay. But then he literally controlled the wind. Like that's what we want to see. But then we boil it down, and we're like, it's not just knowing the name of the wind. It's not something as simple as that. We're starting off with all these mental exercises and like literally thinking about things in a way that people should not. I think that is a very cool approach to magic, instead of just saying the name of a spell and it happening. Like, it seems like everything starts off internally and not just voicing it, or, you know, putting a couple ingredients together and making a potion. Now, those things may exist in this book. I don't remember if like potions are a thing. I imagine they are. Maybe not like magical potions, but something to that effect. Um, Spell casting. I don't know. I don't remember if spell casting is a thing. But again, at the heart of everything, it's starting off in your mind, and it works so well with Kvothe because we know how clever he is. Um, Very cool. Um, and then just touching on sympathetic bindings. It does seem like you get energy from one thing, transfer to another. Not all bonds are perfect. I like that. I like whenever there is a magic system and there are flaws to it, or it's not perfect. I think I mentioned this if you guys read the Mistborn series along with me. I'm pretty sure I touched on this there as well, where Brandon Sanderson's magic system with Mistborn, not perfect. There are flaws. There are ways to get around it. Um, yeah, there are ways to improve it. Which I always thought was nice. There's always an answer for something. There isn't one single aspect of that magic system that is almighty, right? And so delving into Patrick's magic system here with the Kingkiller Chronicle, I like that. Where it's like, well, you can use this thing to lift this thing, but it's not one for one. You're still lifting both things. So even though you're lifting one talent with another talent, it's going to feel like you're lifting two talents. But in actuality, it actually feels like three talents because, on paper it should be two, but that's not always how it works. And then also bindings are not every binding is perfect. And the more imperfect a binding is, the harder it is, right? So he talked about, I forget what it was, but he tried to lift two things, right? It was like an apple and a jar of water or something. And because those things are not anywhere near similar, it felt like he was trying to lift up 40 pounds of apples just to lift up the glass of water as well, because it is not a similar binding whatsoever. So again, I like they're kind of playing with that a little bit. I'm interested to see how the magic develops. Obviously we're jumping towards the end a little bit. We do see that Ben really wants him to join the university. We'll see if he actually makes it there. I don't know that he said in this part so far, up to chapter 23, if that's what he's actually going to do. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if he actually makes it there. Maybe, his course veers off and he ends up doing something else that I'm not going to mention yet. But we'll see. We'll see. One quick thing I did want to mention that kind of connects the two. And I did mention the thing before, which is the waystones, greystones, whatever. Never noticed it before. I don't think I noticed this on my first read of it. But his name, the name of the inn that Kvothe is at, is the Waystone Inn. I thought that was cool. It's like, oh, that makes sense. I wonder why, now that name has a connection now, obviously, which is cool. But I wonder if there's more to it other than just like, oh, it's a Waystone. We used to stop by those or whatever. I wonder if there's another incident. Well, not incident. Incident has a negative connotation, but if there's another moment, another memory that he has in the future that makes Waystones more important to him, or if it is just Waystone. It sounds cool, and the whole idea of them being good luck, but also a resting place makes sense for an inn. So I just want to make that connection. But I guess, nope, not yet. A couple more things before we get to the turning point for his life, as Kvothe calls it. He tries to summon the name of the wind in a very wrong way. He binds the air within his lungs to the air outside. Now, I think that was very clever, a very clever thing to do, but as Ben says, very stupid. No, I guess he doesn't say stupid. Kvothe says stupid. He says thoughtless, right? And he says clever and thoughtless is the most dangerous combination. You can understand where Kvothe is coming from, like his thought process in that, where he's like, oh, well, there's air inside of me and there's air outside of me. I've already learned the very basics of sympathy. So if I just bond the two, right, like air and air, right, two very similar, some would say the exact same thing, so the bond should be strong and easy. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to breathe in and breathe out, and then moving the air that way should move the air outside. That's how he does it. It turns out it isn't how he does it, or it is, and he's just way better and way skilled. And at him, again, we still have no idea how the whole name of the wind thing happens. Although we do know we have evidence of names, quote unquote, being powerful, even though we don't know exactly how it works yet, because in the present time, Kvothe and Bast and Chronicler, right, we have them. Chronicler realizes that Bast must be some kind of demon. We're not 100% sure at that point, but he's like, so then he pulls out the iron and he knows the name of iron. and he's able to use that power to hurt Bast. So again, knowing the name of things, very important. Even Ben talks about this when he was talking to Kvothe's parents, and the dad almost starts listing off like, oh well, the Chandrian, they're known by many names. He would start naming them, and then Ben was like, don't do that. you know, superstitious might be the wrong word, but I understand. It is because I'm educated and you know, I've studied this. Don't want to just go throwing around names willy nilly. So again, we know names. The book again called Name of the Wind, but at this point, we do know that names in general have some level of importance, some significance to the power that you can draw from them or to them. Again, not quite sure how that works. So he does that foolishly. He almost dies, all that stuff. So, I just wanted to mention that. And then I guess, everything, most of my other notes are kind of leading to the incident. So up to this point, there are some very clear distinctions I want to make, but up to this point, and we will touch on this a little later, but it also very easily leads into this. So, Chandrian, or however they're pronounced, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Chandrian are very dangerous and mysterious creatures, or people, or demons, animals. We're not sure. That's kind of the point, right? Is that we have no idea what Chandrian actually are. But they are powerful. They do have legends about them, stories about them. There are many different indicators as to, when they're going to show up, or even after they've shown up. There's many different things that people believe they do, what they represent, how many of them they are. We're pretty sure there's 7 of them because the name even means 7, but even that is like, well, it's not confirmed, All we know is they are dangerous. You do not want to meet them. Most people, and, I love this point that, that Ben makes too, where he's like, if one person shouted that there was, what were those things called? Like shamblers or something? I don't know. Basically reminded me of zombies. I think that was Pat's way of introducing zombies to the world, but not actually zombies. Zombies. I'm gonna call them zombies. If one person was like, "Oh, there's zombies out here," would you believe them? No. Okay, well, what if 2 people? What if a dozen people? What if half the town said it? And his dad was like, "No, it's preposterous. The zombies don't exist." And he's like, "Okay, but would you go into the woods that they're claiming the zombies are?" And there was a long pause. And I think the point Ben was trying to make was, people may not, like, if you force someone to admit it, most people would say, we do not believe in the Chandrian, that they actually exist. But it does not stop people from being wary and cautious of the potential, signs that they exist, or, if it is said that there may be one somewhere, it's like, yeah, right. But then I'm not going over there. You know what I mean? I'm not going to risk it. It is a very somewhat hypocritical way of thinking, and be like, well, I don't believe that exists, but I'm not, I don't believe ghosts exist, but I'm not going in the haunted house. It's like, well, if you don't believe they exist, just go in the house. But that is kind of the point that he's trying to make, where it's like, you may not believe they exist, but you can't just write them off. Again, going back to the point of like being superstitious and not saying their names out loud. That they, we don't know, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So, I do like that. Mysterious, dangerous, all that stuff. Yes. This all leads to Kvothe's dad performing a portion of the linear song, which is very, very closely tied to Chandrian. Very cool that he finally did. He never does that. which in the end of the day, maybe if he didn't still be alive. But, we did see a little bit of that, which was neat. But it does seem to be all leading to the incident where Quoth's entire troop dies. Not dies, murdered, slain. Uh, this was rough. I remember the first time reading this, I couldn't believe it, because the way it's leading, it's like, oh, they're just chilling, they're going, the mom is like, hey, cool, why don't you go pick up some sage or whatever, and very clearly, he knows why they're trying to get him out of here so they can have some time alone with just themselves. Very nice, like, oh, this happens all the time, whatever, and then for him to just come back and the scene be completely different. All the cards are in disarray. Some of them are on fire. They're on their side. Bodies are everywhere. Um, Very jarring, very tragic. And we see that there is a group of people. One of them, he points out, has like the white everywhere and the black eyes. And then another one is like completely surrounded by darkness, by shadow, all that stuff. That one seems to be the most dangerous. you know, he seems to have the most, the tightest grip on the rest of his comrades, or the tools, as he calls them. So we're assuming, so this is kind of where another point of mystery and theories stem from. Is like, who are these people, right? A lot of blue tinged fire. Kvothe made a point of pointing that out in the story when he told it. I don't know that we are supposed to believe that any of these or one of these are Chandrian, because in my mind up until this point, I feel like Chandrian are, they're sort of, they have the energy of more beast than man. That's how I've always pictured them, as like part man, part beast. And these guys just seem like possibly very skilled arcanists. But maybe one of them, again, that one with the shadow surrounding them, who again called everyone his tools, that guy seemed pretty powerful. Maybe he was a Chandrian. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know what we're supposed to believe in these first 23 chapters. I don't even remember what we believe past 23 chapters. But again, he did make it a point of talking about the blue tinged fire, and then he does also make it a point to have the one guy say that I don't think he says your dad, but he says someone's been singing all the wrong sorts of songs. And so that would lead me to believe that because of the songs that he was singing, most likely particularly the Lanier song, which is about Chandrian, not just them, but that's kind of the main thing about him, right? That leads you to believe that maybe those are the Chandrian, or one of them are, or maybe none of them, but maybe their boss is one of them or something. That's sort of the fan theory circling around that at this point. I would assume, but we don't know. We don't know, because as quick as they were there, they're gone. They hear something, they all group up and they disappear. I guess lucky for Quills, because they were going to kill him too. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of the little trail that leaves us on. Were those Chandrian? Did they have any sort of connection to the Chandrian? Yeah, rough stuff. Very, very rough. Jeez. Yeah. And then past that, it's all kind of a blur. Before that, just to mention it, but I feel like makes sense to mention it afterwards. Ben does leave. He stays in the one place, the one town or whatever, seemingly to get together with that one woman that he meets. Very cool for him. That is when he leaves him the book with the note, basically implying that he knows that I know you're gonna go to the university. I can see it. I can see it in you. So And it says, make me proud of the university, all that stuff, which is very nice. I also hope he goes to the university because at this point, he has no troupe anymore. I can't see him performing again. So why not take up the other thing that was, seemingly developing into a passion, which is becoming an arcanist. That could be cool. Um, and again, this does lead into, a point I was making towards the beginning, which is, Kvothe just kind of going on autopilot. He does, he plays the lute every day, staying connected to that portion of him, who he's been for the first 12 years of his life. Yeah. Yeah. Which is all so much worse when it turns out that the lute breaks. I think those two things kind of connected to each other is important because, like I said, the lute connects him both to his family, his blood family, but then also his troop family, his Edma Ruh bloodline, right? But then also, who he was, and he talks about it too, where that's the day that he lost his childhood. He was always a little more mature. He always thought about things beyond his years, but that was the moment where it's like, okay, I'm no longer carefree. Not anymore. And so for him to try to keep that connection with the music as well as the lute, physically, and then for not too much later, I mean, he does spend like a few months in the woods, I think. But then for the lute to break, and this is where I'm a little fuzzy, even though I read it, I feel like I didn't do a good job at this part where it's like, so does, at this point, well, I guess at the end of chapter 23, does Kvothe, does he still have the lute, and is it just broken? Did those guys like scoop up all the broken pieces? Because he does say that the book that Ben gave him is the last solid piece of his past. And I'm not sure if that's just in totality or it's like I literally have nothing else. So like the lute is gone. It's out of here. Or if the word solid was doing the heavy lifting there. It's like, well, I have the lute, but it's in pieces. Don't remember. It'd be really sad if it's completely gone. That if it's completely gone, that really feels like it's just completely stamping out his connection to his past as well as his motivation and desire to do any music going forward. So we'll see. Speaking of where he's at now, he does end up in Tarbean. He does mention that he is there for 3 years. Long time. He'll be 15 by the time he leaves. We're not done with the Tarbean adventures yet. We're still in the thick of that, but I do kind of like that he mentions, we're in 3 years because not only kind of showcasing how long he stays there for, because 3 years, kind of a long time, as well as being away from all the Edma Ruh stuff for 3 years, but then also telling us that it does end, telling us that this is not where I end up for the rest of my life. I mean, clearly we know that because obviously Ko is at the Waystone Inn now, but like almost giving us some little breadcrumbs of like, hey, I'm going to be leaving here at some point. And so now that kind of gets the gears turning in our head of like, where's he going? Is he going to follow, hopefully, his teachings and Ben and all that stuff, and decide to go to the university? Is he going to, I don't know, maybe join another troop? He did say, I mean, I feel like he did mention that the Edma Ruh, like his troop was not Edma Ruh only. Like there are other Edma Ruh troops out there. I mean, there's obviously other troops out there, but not all of them are Edma Ruh. But he was not the only Edma Ruh troop, I'm pretty sure. So maybe he goes and finds someone else. Maybe all the Edmas are, they do have like a familial bond where where they will take him in. That'd be pretty cool. Although again, not sure that he really wants to jump into that again. He seems like anything that could remotely get him into the headspace of remembering the past is something he does not want to do. So, we'll see. There's really only two options for me. At this point, because again, he's not going to stay in Tarbean. He just confirmed it. But it's like he either goes back and tries to do music, or he tries to go to the university. Um, yeah. Yeah, and then I guess just a little more Tarbean stuff, just a few more Tarbean things. We do see the separation in class. Hillside is the uh, rich portion of the city. Waterside is the poor side of the city. No, Waterside is poor. Hillside is rich. Yes, that's what it is. We do see the difference there, where the constables very different, very different. Uh, Waterside ones don't really care. Hillside ones actually protect. It does seem different, right? Where it's like everyone kind of fights for themselves in Waterside, but in Hillside, it's like this is a real community, you know. So be interested to see more of that and how that develops through his time there. We do see the one in Canis, the one person playing the Incanis. He does show some sort of sympathy towards Kvothe. He does give him his gloves as well as a silver talent. A lot of money for Kvothe. A lot of money. So I thought that was interesting. Again, not sure if that's accentuated by the story of Encanis and Telu that Trappist tells later. He didn't have to be that generous with Kvothe, a stranger, a little kid that he just met. But he did. And then we do see Kvothe buying a few things, not staying in the inn though. And two things that I do want to point out there that I thought were just worth noting. One, he does not stay at the inn. He doesn't even sit in the room next to the fire and all that stuff. Even though he is offered, and I think that just goes back to this trauma that he has, where it's like he does not want anyone to get near him. He doesn't want to be with anyone. It's just too much for him. Again, even something as small as kind human interaction is too close to him than falling down the stairs of his own memories. So, and then on top of that, we do have the ladies that were there that were helping him. They were very distraught over seeing him. He probably looks like a mess, but then also his whole demeanor, his voice, all that stuff, his situation, that they can clearly kind of piece at least a few things together. Not the whole Edma Ruh massacre or anything like that, but just like his position in this city. I thought that was interesting, like how sad they were. If it was just them being more emotional and empathetic than most people are, or if there is a sort of disparity between the people there, even within Waterside. I don't know. I wonder if we will explore that a little more, or if it's not that important. I don't know. But that is it. That is everything. Like I said, a lot of stuff to cover this time because we are introducing characters, plot lines, all that stuff, worlds, settings, all the words. But I think it's a good start. I think it's a great start. We have a good chunk of the story already done, of Kvothe's story already done. There are a lot of mysteries. Like I said, there are a lot of small things, a lot of small mysteries. Like one, I mean, I can just try to run through them real quick in my mind, where it's like, how did Kvothe get here to the Waystone Inn? How did he get? It was apparently some sort of bounty on his head. Where did that come from, right? Why do they call him the King Killer? Do we find out? If he wants to die so bad, I mean, it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Harsh is probably still not strong enough for what I'm gonna say, but if he wants to die so bad, clearly he is in that state of mind Why hasn't he? You know, what is keeping him tethered? And again, this isn't me saying I want him to end his own life, but like I'm more fascinated by the other side of that, where it's like, again, what is keeping him tethered? What is, because he has only had Bast. He even said he only had Bast for a couple years, so I could see Bast keeping him now. But like other than that, what's been going on, right? Um, we do see that chest that is in his place, which I think is only interesting because these like it's like rule of threes happens a lot. He talks about 3 days to tell the story. The prologue mentions silence in 3 parts. The chest has 3 locks. So I'm sure there's some sort of poetic answer there, but we also don't know what's in the chest. That's another thing there too. There's also lots of mystery around like the present time, where obviously the bulk of the story and our enjoyment of this series is gonna be with Kvothe, but with Kote, it's like there's some bad stuff happening out here too. Like we always have the spider-like demon things, the Scrael, those things running around. We have a war happening apparently. Does that matter at all, or is that just set dressing? And then we have in the story where it's like, is he gonna go to the university? We know he's only in Tarbean for another couple years. Where does he go from there? Does anything of any sort of significance happen in the rest of his time here, or is it just him surviving? Um, you know, yeah. Do the Chandrian actually pop? Like, I mean, were those the Chandrian? Were any of them the Chandrian? Were they, soldiers or whatever for the Chandrian? Clearly there is some importance there because the Chandrian have been mentioned multiple times. So there has to be something there. So, but yeah, lots of stuff. I think that is it. So, next time we will cover the next quarter, which will be chapters 24 through 46. So we'll be halfway through at that point. Very fun. Let me know of any sort of predictions that you have for the next 23 chapters. Anything I missed that you wanted to point out? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, till next time, read the chapters. Have a good time doing that. And make sure not to sing the wrong songs.